Are you wondering if your child might be gifted? This can be something that's really hard to tell for sure, especially for first-time parents. We all think that everything our first child does is like the most brilliant, amazing thing to ever happen. And then sometimes you can just wonder, like, is my child smart? Is my child gifted? In this video, we will talk about 15 common characteristics of gifted children. But first, hello, my name is Valerie. I blog at babywisemom.com and have been blogging there since the year 2007. I love helping parents love parenting. I have 4 children of my own who have all been identified as gifted, and they range in age currently from 11 to 19 years old. The first really common characteristic in a gifted child is a very strong verbal ability. This can be really hard to know with your first child. Like I said, we all think everything our first child does is absolutely incredible. Like even just saying a word is amazing. And then we kind of realize either as time goes on or as we have more children, like, oh, kids learn to talk. That's pretty normal. But you may find if you have a gifted child and you look back, it's hard to know as a baby, but as you look back, if you've kept track of like the words that your child, like baby, speaks, you may look back and see, oh, my baby actually spoke a lot more words per age than what is considered average or expected at that age. You will find that a gifted child will have a very large vocabulary. A gifted child will often be an early reader, and a gifted child will want to read a lot, will want to read all the time. And they will absolutely love being read to as young children. Now, obviously, these can all be things that are common in really any child, and especially if you are intentional about trying to help your child love to read, then these can be true of any child. If you are someone who reads aloud to your children, who encourages your children to read, exposes them to lots of books, talks to your child a lot, and uses a variety of vocabulary words when speaking to your children, then this can be common with any child. So this alone will not mean you have a gifted child, but if your child has a large vocabulary, that is one possible sign that your child is gifted. A gifted child will also usually have a really good memory. For example, in keeping in line with the reading idea, if your gifted child has a story that you always read to them, then you're reading along and thinking you might be able to skip a page or maybe even just skip a sentence. A gifted child will notice and call you out for missing something. Gifted child will have intense curiosity. Now, all children are curious. All children ask why a lot because they're learning basically everything. They are learning everything. Everything's new to them. So all children are curious. A gifted child, their curiosity cannot be satiated. They ask why all the time about everything and will ask you questions that have never crossed your mind ever. You'll find yourself saying, I don't know, a lot. Gifted children tend to have a wide range of interests over a variety of, let's say, genres. So your gifted child might have an instrument they really want to play, love to draw, love to read, and also really want to play soccer. But you will find that your gifted child is interested in a lot of different things. Some gifted children will pick one thing they're interested in and really hone in on it and put all of their effort and like physical effort and intellectual effort into that item. Other gifted children might spread out their interest across many items at the same time. And this interest can also be varied among topics. So, some children are just really obsessed with animals and they have a lot of interest in animals, whereas a gifted child will have interest in a variety of subjects and want to know everything about absolutely everything. Gifted children absolutely love to experiment. They like to take things apart to see how they work. They like to mix things together to see what happens. So exactly like how they experiment can depend on where their mind is, their giftedness is really focused in on. Like, someone who's more mechanically inclined would be far more interested in how things are taken apart or how they look when they're taken apart, whereas someone who's more artistically minded might be way more interested in what happens when you mix paint colors together. This is a good moment to point out that there are a lot of different ways someone can be gifted. You can have people who are gifted socially, intellectually, physically, so there can be many different ways to be gifted. A gifted child will have a passionate imagination and creativity. It will not be uncommon for a gifted child to have imaginary friends or to be obsessed with playing imaginary games. A gifted child is super creative and will find ways to express that creativity. So that can be through the imaginary friend, through playing imaginary games. It can be through writing songs. It can be through being super artistic. It can be through what they build out of Legos. So you will find that a gifted child is quite creative. You will find a gifted child has a remarkable sense of humor and that they really love wordplay and one-liners and jokes. Gifted children also really want to understand why. They are not satisfied with because I said so or just because. So if you're giving rules or expectations, they want to understand why, and not in like a I'm being defiant, so I'm asking like why situation, but they want to understand what's the reasoning behind this rule. They also, like we talked about earlier, like want to understand how things work, why things work. So they want to understand everything. Gifted children also tend to be impatient with themselves and with other people. A gifted child can really struggle to understand why someone else can't just get or do something. The reason for this is that they haven't really struggled to ever have to like learn or accomplish those kind of things, and so they don't understand why other people are struggling themselves. And when I was a child, I was identifying as gifted also, and it honestly took me until I was an adult to fully grasp and understand that other people could not know things. I always thought that people were just faking it. Like if they acted like they didn't get it or didn't know, I thought they were faking it for whatever reason. I didn't understand why. I just assumed they were faking it. So it can just be really hard for a child to understand that like not everything comes as easily to other people. So it can be really helpful as a parent if you can help your child learn that. They can also be really impatient with themselves and be like impatient perfectionists because so many things come easily to them. When they do have to work at something, like that will happen. There will be something they have to work at. So when that time comes, they can be really impatient with themselves and expect themselves to get it really quickly. And I'll put a plug in. If you do have a gifted child, I feel it is very, very wise to have your child participate in activities that they cannot get right away and that you have to learn bit by bit. A couple of examples of that. One is the piano. Learning to play the piano takes a long time and you improve very incrementally. And it takes time, it takes years. And so if your gifted child is playing the piano, then they can look back, and when they get older, it's usually when they get older when these struggles really start to come out. Then as they get older, you can say, hey, what about playing the piano? Like, look at how far you've come. Were you really good? Were you this good when you first started piano? There are a lot of sports that also require consistent effort, even if you have a good natural talent at it. One of those is something like swim. When you're swimming, you have to keep working at it consistently. If you stop swimming for a period of time, your ability, your time as a swimmer will be slower. You have to work up and build up that endurance. So, sports like that, you get good at over time, and you have to put consistent effort in if you want to be able to be good and to be better. Gifted children tend to have a longer attention span than other children their same age. They can be really persistent and really be willing and able to focus on something longer than another child that same age. Gifted children also tend to have very complex thinking and can get very bored with monotony, with the mundane, with something that is too routine. It's not uncommon for a gifted child in school to be identified as disruptive or a problem child. That definitely does not happen with all gifted children. I didn't have that problem with any of my children. But it does happen, and it's very understandable if a child is in class and understands everything being taught and finds it really boring and mundane. My children have all been fortunate to have teachers who are very, very talented and adept at helping children who already understand things to help them find other ways to be engaged and focused on the lesson. And also just some of them just allowed them to read. So if you're doing a math lesson, you already understand this, they were okay with my child just reading a book during math. And because my children all loved to read so much, that was great. They were happy to just sit and read during math if they already understood the concept. Gifted children tend to be very concerned with social and political problems and injustices. When they're younger, this can look something as simple as like being rule followers and being very concerned about everything being fair among everyone. And so they may just really work to make sure all the other children around them are following the rules, everyone's being fair, everything needs to be right. As they get older and become more aware of the world beyond their little bubble, they can become very concerned about things that are happening in their community and globally. And you will probably find that your gifted child will want to do something about anything that they look out and see as an injustice. Gifted children tend to be quite sensitive, and studies have found that the brighter the child, the more sensitive they tend to be. This sensitivity can look like a lot of different things. They can be really sensitive toward other people and be very concerned about how they are feeling. And this can be more common in gifted children who are more socially gifted. You know, some gifted children aren't really that socially savvy, but others are masters at social life. Gifted children can also be really sensitive to expectations. This is a good thing to be aware of as a parent, because you can inadvertently place really strong expectations upon your gifted child. Even just like encouragement that you give can come across as an expectation. They can also be sensitive towards others to the point where they're very strong peacemakers and really work to make sure there's calm and peace all around them. They can also be sensitive in the way that they are really hurt easily, that their feelings are hurt easily, they're offended very easily, and they're looked at as like emotional. You can also be sensitive just like in the literal physical sense, where they're like super sensitive to touch. Some gifted children can be really upset by like tags or seams on clothes. They can be really adverse to certain textures of fabrics. They can be really sensitive towards smell, and maybe they don't really like that air freshener you have going on, or the perfume that you're wearing, or what that food smells like. They can just really have a strong sense of smell. They can also have a very strong response to sound, and can have things like misophonia, where small sounds can make them actually angry towards people making that sound. Gifted children tend to just be intense. They're intense in their actions, they're intense in their opinions, and they're intense in their beliefs. Whatever it is they have, whatever they're feeling or doing, it's intense, it's all in, unless they are concerned that they will be really bad at it, and then they may just be the kind of perfectionist who won't even try because they're worried about failing. Gifted children can also tend to be daydreamers and can get lost in their own thoughts. That wraps up the 15 common characteristics of gifted children. You can find all of these and more information in A Parent's Guide to Gifted Children. I highly recommend this book. It's very helpful, has a lot of good information. I do have more information on this topic on my blog, so be sure to check that out. And as always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer. And thanks for watching, and have a great day.